Whenever the internal dialogue stops, the world collapses, and extraordinary facets of our being surface, as though they had been kept heavily guarded by our words. Carlos Castaneda. I'm going to be interviewing a brilliant wordsmith and writer, of course, and author,
Lawrence William Lyons,
of the incredibly famous and dynamic book called The Language Crystal, originally published in 1988. I'm very fortunate to have connected with
Lyons
via the internet, via some of the work that I have done based on his work. So his book, The Language Crystal, really influenced my thinking because I'd already been interested in the power of our speech and the power of words, and also interested in all the mythological heroic characters in our scriptures and in our ancient writings, our sagas from all over the world that eventually become mythology. And I realized that in order for me to even understand that this mythology comes to me, it comes to me in words, it comes to me in writing. So, not to jump off too deep in the beginning, but we're going to go into The Language Crystal and this brilliant book that Lyons wrote in a mystical mind state that really breaks down the esoteric structure of our alphabet and of each letter and of the code that comes out of writing and comes out of speech that quite literally and mystically and phenomenally affects reality, our inner reality. And our inner reality reflects our outer reality. So, without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the wise words of Mr. Lawrence Lyons. Welcome to Still Point Radio.
This is Still Point Radio, where it's all about the sovereignty of self, super elevated levels of freedom. Welcome. Welcome, everyone, and good evening, good day, good morning, wherever you may be. We talk about the nature of reality, truth, consciousness, centeredness, still point, the nature of the self, life and time and being. Our intent here, as usual, is to keep it real. Enjoy it and share. Thank you. I wanted to, so first I really want to talk about your first book, The Language Crystal. I mean, I know we're going to promote your new book, and I'm excited to hear about that. But so many people that are going to be listening to this know you from your work with The Language Crystal. And I have that book in front of me right now, and I have the code, the page where the code is given to us. And I just think it's absolutely fascinating, the amount of work you put into this. And I'm just so curious when I was reading this, I'm so curious as to how did you come up with this code? How did you realize that each letter has a significant meaning, and that there's something that's real?
You're talking about a book that I wrote that I actually self-published 30 years ago, and it took me about 11 years to write.
Right.
So that's 41 years ago. When I first saw on television, I saw a couple of comedians talking about the number 18. One of them said he had paid $18,000 renting bowling shoes. That was Robert Klein. And then a pianist, Victor Borgerhead, said that he paid $1 for the piano and $1,800 for the stool. These guys, in those days, these things got laughs. But I realized that then I watched comedians using this number 18 consistently. You go back to your tapes and see the numbers that they use, 18 and 27, and Joan Rivers uses 108 all the time. There's a built-in structure to our thought structure, to our thought system, that's around a circle. Because if you put a amount of circles around a circle, all the ones that fit, you'll come up with 6 circles fit around a circle.
Okay, so that's like the seed of life, right? The geometric form, the seed of life.
Well, it's abstraction. It's a thought. Well, that's actually all I had to say about that, because if you look at the table, I think the resonance of the table, I understand, is kind of basic, like a B is abutment, and this is to a bat, and bang, and all these things are B words, you know. We know what that means. We know what that means, to abut something.
So, okay, but here's the thing. How did you, that's a good hypothesis to go, okay, there must be a connection here to our deep psyche and the structure of our alphabet. That's a great hypothesis. But my question is, how did you verify it? How did you work with this and go, hey, this must be true?
It was an interesting. Think of a photographer taking a photograph, and the photographer exposes a negative to the light, and then goes into the darkroom and develops the negative and comes out with what is called a proof. Now, if the photographer were to stay in the darkroom too long, that thing looking for a proof would be totally black. In other words, in order to prove something, all you have to do is come into balance between the darkness and the lightness of your question.
Interesting.
So what I'm saying is, for instance, if you're taking gravity and searching for an answer, the answer is levity.
Uh-huh. So
gravity would die. If gravity died, then we could have a wake, then eat some cake, and then awaken to that day when all gravity is gone.
Uh-huh. See, you and I know exactly what you mean when you say that. But for people who haven't read your book, they're just going to think that's a whimsical statement. But that is not a...
Oh, well, yeah, that's not in the book. I mean, this is 30-some-odd years ago I wrote that.
I know, but your statement is not a whimsical statement. Your statement, when you say gravity, levity, wake, and cake, you actually... See, you already think this way. You already...
Well, I already have a hypothesis about what is up and what is down as far as the auric field. I mean, most people think of up and down between their heads and their toes. I think of in and out. I think of myself as in my own auric field, which is a sphere.
Uh-huh. Right.
So then up and down become different. Like, if you wake up in the morning and you fall asleep at night. Now, why do people say that they fall asleep? You put your body on the bed. What is falling? It's not really falling. What you're doing is you're moving your perception upward, and it appears to your perception that your body is falling, where actually your spirit is rising.
Right. So have you ever heard of Wilhelm Reich? Have you ever studied the work of...
Yes. No, not studied. I never really studied.
Okay. So just real quick, Wilhelm Reich was really talking about the same thing that you're saying. He's saying that the energy of the body is not necessarily from feet to head. It's more from inside, like your core, to your skin surface. So inner to outer.
Well, it's your core as related to your spiritual family, which is the outer.
Okay. So let me try to rein this back in. You wrote this book called The Language Crystal, and when I discovered it, I got really fortunate. I found a copy on Amazon. I had it on my wish list. I found a copy on Amazon for about $30, and it took me about a year to find it, and when I found it, I bought it. And I knew that it was a profound book because of other researchers that I had studied had referenced it. And I knew that it was a really profound book. But since then, and since I made a couple of videos, as you know, highlighting bits and pieces of your work.
Yeah, I saw one of them,
Okay, so all I was doing was trying to bring to the public an awareness that your language and your speech is much more powerful than people think. And so what happened was I got a lot of interesting comments on my videos, but...
Well, I would say, how do you know what people think? I mean, I don't know if that is true. They might think that. I don't know.
Well, I've also spoken publicly about the power of word and speech. I have, I've spoken about it in public, and I have question and answer sections, and I can see what people are thinking. And so,
okay, thank you.
So the reason why I'm saying this is because if you go back and you look at all these very mythological scriptures and mythological archetypes, especially the hero archetype, you'll find that what dictates a great deal of the hero archetype is their ability to speak or sing or articulate word into being. So you have this very old statement, you know, like in the beginning was the word. And that's a Christian statement, but it also goes way back further than that. It goes into Hinduism because they believe that the sound or the word was the first motion of creation.
Well, that's where the chakras come in, because the Ram and the Lam in the chakra system are the Lam is the base outside, and Ram is the fire center. So the Ram is the external, and the Ram is the center. And that's the fire and the auric field outside. So that R and L become the 12th and 18th letters in the language of the angles. That has fulfilled itself, in 12 times 18 is 216, and 216 is 6 times 6 times 6, and it extends out. So that's where the bridge between letters and numbers is what we call Kabbalah.
Uh-huh.
Kabbalah means, first of all, it means to receive, but you not only receive, you kind of gestate for a while, and then you kind of wait, and then you eventually get a revelation. It may be 3 days, or it may be 300 years, but that's what Kabbalah means. It means to receive, and so that's what happens when when you write something down, and we come back a year later or 100 years later, and we look at it, we get a new message from it.
Yes, so that's I mean, there's so many places we could jump from there. Okay, if we break down the word Kabbalah, it's the same word for Kabbalah is the exact same word for Kabbalion, right? And Kabbalion is the emerald tablets. It's the Hermetic text, right? So Ka, Ba, and La. Can you tell us what Ka means, what Ba means, and what La means?
Okay, I'll gladly do that. I'm a mystic.
Yes.
And as a mystic, I experienced my soulmate pass away in the year 2001 on May 31st. And now I'm speaking from the same room where she passed, and she had cancer, and so she was in hospice. And the woman called me in, and she said, Barbara is turning white, and she's dead. And so she got on the phone to pronounce her dead, and I went over and I looked at her, and I realized I lived with her for 18 years and 9 months, so you kind of get to know somebody. Yeah. So I looked at her face, and she was still in there. She was looking right at me, you know. She had no heartbeat, she had no pulse, and she had no breath, but she had not yet left her body. Mm-hmm. So her spirit and my spirit at that moment did something. There was a transmission of energy from her right eye to my right eye. And so at that time, my name was Lawrence William Lyons. That's the guy who wrote The Langer's Crystal. Yeah. And her name was Barbara Lee Feldman. Now, she used to call me La for Lawrence, and I used to call her Ba for Barbara. So when she passed away, soon after that, I began to call myself Bala. Mm-hmm. And all my friends in New York City, everybody here calls me Bala, because that's my transcendent mystical name. Now, Lawrence William Lyons is the guy that wrote the book, but he's dead. I really can't tell you much, but that's why you kind of look at it. How did I write the book? Well, no, I didn't really write that book. Lawrence William Lyons wrote that book. Bala is an entity that was conceived in the year 2001, mm-hmm. a soulmate enterprise, if you'll call it, a company.
Right.
Bala is the wife. But the trick to that whole thing is that my first wife, Barbara's not my wife on paper. She's my soulmate. And so you can't divorce your soulmate, so you don't really need a contract because, you're the soulmate. Right. So that's the way that is. But the woman that I married on paper, her name was Kathleen. Kathleen, she took my last name Lyons, and we were married. She's Kathleen Lyons. But she committed suicide. So I have two wives that both, or not one wife and one soulmate. But if you put them together, you get Kathleen La.
Okay, so now I get that and I understand that. But see, I know what Ka means in Egypt, and I know what Ba means, like for Baal, for the sun god Baal, and I know what La means for like El and Elohim. But our listeners probably don't. So how do you
Well, okay, go ahead.
So, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm going to keep coming back to this because it's so fascinating. It's like, how did you realize that, let's say, for example, that the letter C, right? The letter C refers to, if I remember correctly, refers to light. It refers to light, right? Most people are not going to say, how does C equate to light?
Everybody knows that.
Well,
though.
if you're a mathematician, then yes, you would know that E equals mc squared.
Well, you know that you see light. I mean, everybody knows that they see light.
well,
what I'm saying is that written language is very misleading, because if you listen to spoken language, it's really the language of God.
Okay.
The word God, in its roots, if you go from the Indo-European, many different pronunciations, you go actually to the Sanskrit root, the word is Gutha. And Gutha means simply the one that we're in conversation with. We're asking something from. So God is always conversant. Does that answer any question? What was the question we were talking about?
That does answer questions in a sort of a different way. But what I'm trying to say is, if you were to say E equals mc squared, to a mathematician, the C in that equation means light, right? But how it came to be consensus, how mathematicians said, we all agree that the letter C is going to refer to light. That is a mystical process, and you've figured out how that happens, and you wrote that down in this book, and you provide a code for people who read this book, and that code is, once you look and learn that code, and you start looking at each word, if you read or write or speak, you start I started to go, oh my gosh, Lawrence Lyons is correct. C does equal light, but how did he know that, right? How do you know that Ra refers to this liquid motion of power? And how did you know that L refers to, the Elohim or the sort of message of light? And how did you know that C actually refers to, let me just say this, like one of the beautiful words in your book is to center, right? C-E-N-T-E-R. And it's like, to center, according to your book, means where light enters. Because C means light, and enter means light enters. But we use that word, to center, as this very balanced, very positive, very strong place to be, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. If you're centered, you are in this really refined state. And it makes perfect sense that C and enter makes light enter. But you figured that out. You broke down what C means.
Well, may I interpose?
Yeah, sure.
Because the word entrance, if you take the word entrance and you write it down on a piece of paper, and you come back 3 minutes later and look at it, it might say entrance.
Yes.
So that's Kabbalah. That's a revelation, and it's contained all over the place. It's a constant layering of letters and images.
Yes. That's fascinating, and I think most people don't know that.
Well, see, I don't have... Barbara used to be able to see things in her brain, like if I'd say, well, imagine a tree, she could think of a tree, or 5 trees, or 10 different kinds of trees. If you tell me to imagine a tree, I can't think of anything. Nothing comes to my mind, because behind the veil in my brain is a screen that is reflecting this imagery. See, I'm not all perceptant. There's certain things that I can't see at all. In fact, I'm what they call dyslexic. And I say that I'm actually pre-lexic and post-lexic, but I'm not dyslexic. I see language as I see listen to the word paragraph. Okay, I see paragraphs, but it's kind of, you were sentenced to each other's paragraphs. It means we're all in the same thought field. And so it's our converse at ions. It's our conversations. Converse at ions. So I see the entire. See, I can see this picture of the way the university. I was born at 2:16 in the morning, not 2:20, and not 2:15, but 2:16, and that's 6 times 6 times 6. That's 12 times 18. That's the solution to. So I was already born into this crystal structure. My father My father's from Waterford in Ireland, and Waterford is where they make crystals. and my last name is Lyons, and Lyons is also 216 in Kabbalah. So it's just kind of a very broad pattern that just, springs out. So when you're asking me how I wrote the book, I don't know that I wrote the book. I just kind of turned something inside out.
Well, you have a very unique awareness or perception. 2, 1, and 6 added up equals 9. And 9 is the number of completion, right?
Well, I feel like I'm more of a bonobo than a chimpanzee. We're really looking to solve a problem on the planet Earth that has to do with human interaction and how to touch each other and how to find social distance and how to, observe.
Yes.
And the theory that I've come out of, and I've been studying Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden and all that kind of stuff, and I understand that Eve is being blamed for delivering the knowledge of good and evil, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because what we need to do is gain the knowledge of good and evil. And that's what language is really all about.
So language is the tool for us to gain the knowledge of good and evil. Is
yes,
that fair to say?
And that's why the feminine aspect of the language is now coming forth, because we're at what they call time's up. If you heard the hashtag time's up, we're at
Yes.
a shift in the zeitgeist that has become toward the Aquarian balance. So that's what Aquarius is. Jerusalem means the possession of balance. Geru Shalom. So what we're looking for is this equality of I don't know how to phrase it because it's so overall. Humanity is the only word I can have for it. It's just the spiritual understanding of satisfying each other's needs without murder and rape, and particularly my focus is rape, because that is really what the issue is. It has to do with chattel slavery, and have you got a minute? I'll give you a puzzle.
Yep.
Okay. Here's the puzzle. Institution, when you have two institutions like the church and state, they need a constitution. So you have institution, constitution. Then what happens if you would disagree too much, you get destitution, which means you get put out. Institution, constitution, destitution. But then when you want to get back in, you have to make restitution. So it's institution, constitution, destitution, restitution, possibly substitution if you can get somebody to do it for you. But why would the end of that chain be prostitution? It doesn't sound like a logical element unless we go back to a fundamental relationship between Adam and Eve and what this means. We go through a long history of what sacred prostitutes are, but now we've reached the end of the story. We've reached the end of the age of Pisces and that subjugation of the feminine when they were like the two male fish really battling against each other. The feminine was put under. And she's just now, we're coming into Aquarius. And when you look at language from the feminine side, because most of what we're reading in books has been put together by men. But there is a thread of language that's interwoven preconsciously into that. And when the feminine emerges from those pages, it tells an entirely new story.
I see. That is an interesting puzzle, and I'm definitely following you on that.
Now, there's more to that.
Okay.
There's something missing. I missed one.
Okay.
The one that's missing is, and here's the switcheroo, the one that's missing is superstitution.
Wait, say it again?
Superstitution. Why have you never heard the word superstitution?
Well, I do know that the root word of super is actually the same word for sover, which is sovereign. So when I hear superstitution, I think of sovereign institution.
And when you think of sovereign, do you think of the masculine or the feminine?
All people, anyone who's an individual, an authentic individual.
Oh, great. Then you've got it. Okay.
Because sovereignty is someone who has managed to remove themselves from the imposition of society, and have been able to create their own self, their own being authentically. It doesn't mean that they have to be outside of society. It just means that they're not in the consensus trance that the memes of their culture have imposed on them. So they become an individual, right? And I kind of think that all of our heroes, whether they be real or mythical, one of the things they have in common, male or female, is that they've been able to disconnect from the memes of society and create their own soul or their own self as as their own. They're basically self-created or self-actualized. And I think that's the spiritual way for someone like a philosopher like myself. So okay, so back to superstition.
Oh yeah, well the hidden word, the word that is been abbreviated. And well, here's what happened when the writing was mostly masculine. They took the feminine aspect out and they called it superstition.
Okay. Yep.
So it's the same word, except they took a piece out of it and therefore diminished it. So the feminine has what is feminine magic has pretty well consistently been called superstition.
Yes.
So it would be the feminine in my paradigm. I'm not trying to impose my paradigm on yours, but I'm just saying in my paradigm, the superstition would be the feminine and the sovereign would be the masculine, and I can see how the two of them would fit. Poetically, that's the way my mind just structures things.
Yes. Okay. So this brings me to an interesting point that's currently going on in the world today, and I would like to get your insight on it. I can follow you, and I can even go there that language for the past, few thousand years has been written with a male, let's say a male influence, right? A male penmanship. But it makes me wonder why you don't see, how do I say this? It's kind of factually known that the big inventions or big creations that have affected humanity around the world are primarily written or made or created by men, primarily. Okay. Now that's not I'm not being a chauvinist. I'm not being like I'm not like pro-man and I'm not bashing women. But why is it that if language has been sort of heavily pushed by the pen of men lately, why is it you rarely have these major contributions to humanity being built? Why don't you see them being invented or built or created by the feminine mind? Like what I'm saying is, why aren't bridges built by females? Why isn't the internet created by females? Why isn't the printing press? Why was that not created by a woman? Why?
May I?
Yes.
The answer to why is Yod He Vav. This is the language of the Angles. The language of the Angles has. If you put English on the board with a small e, just the word English itself, then you make it spin, and that's English. And so, why is a question that's an eternal question, and the answer is an eternal answer. The answer is Yod He Vav. It's a reflection of WHY, and it is the Yahweh, Yehovah.
Yep.
Is the answer to why is always Yehovah, but Yehovah has an extra part to it because it's really Yod He Vav He. And Yod He Vav He has been masculinized to Adnoi rather than pronouncing it as Yahya, which is the Hebrew pronunciation, as close as I can get to the original. But Yahya is the yin and yang of the universality, which has been subjugated in many prayers to Adonai. This is a linguistic flip that just about. I don't know how many people have ever seen this, but it's really kind of the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims make up a paradigm that go into Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the possession of balance, and this has to do with unraveling this Kabbalistic entity from the Book of Genesis, which is really, I'm really a Kabbalist, so my mind goes to some very pivotal political happenings on the planet Earth today.
Yes. Okay, hold on. There's a whole lot in that statement, and I'm not sure exactly where I want to ask first, but I gotta say, when you said Yod He Vav He, and you said that it's basically, in English, is WHY, which is why, and it's an eternal question. And
it's a reflection of WHY. It's YHW.
Reflection. Yep. Okay, I'm there with you there. I follow that. Now, I do know if you write down, in Hebrew, if you write down Yod He Vav He, and you look at it, so like you said, if you look at it, walk away, and then you come back a few minutes later and look at it again, it's actually, and this has been pointed out by other Kabbalists and Hermeticists, that it's actually the number or the symbol pi. Okay, I don't know if you've looked at that.
What's the second part of that pi?
Pi, like 3.14.
Just pi by itself. That's what it is.
Pi, it's pi, right? So
pi. I got you. Okay, cool. Well, that would be inspirational. Spiraling in with the feminine and the XX and the XY, they're spiraling towards each other. That's what it is.
Okay, so my question though is, pi is a universal transcendental symbol. It's numerical transcendentalism. So there is no masculine aspect to it, and there is no feminine aspect to it. It's basically balance.
Yes.
So if you, I understand. I mean, so I don't know necessarily if that symbol, you know, Jehovah, Yad-He-Vad-He, however you say that, is leaning more towards the masculine or more. I see that as just a universal. I
agree with you 100%.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we're on the same page there. Now when you, let's see here. You talked about how this symbol, in Kabbalistic terms, eventually references Genesis, right? And
Well, I'm looking. The story of Genesis is interesting to me. Did you ever hear of a book called The Forest People, about the pygmies of the Sub-Sahara?
No.
Yeah, because going into the construct of the sacred feminine and understanding, it's a very amusing book, and it's really well done by a name Colin Turnbull wrote it, and it's worth to read for anybody because it shows humanity in its very, very primitive form, where they sing all the time, and their relationship to other people. But it's a rather recent 1950s guy went and lived with the pygmies for a couple of years. But take them as like a primal culture, and then move into Europe or wherever the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden means the Garden of Pleasure. Okay, and it's not an African setting. It's up.
No. It's in Scotland. It's Edinburgh, right? Eden.
Well, wherever you'd like to place it, it means pleasure. It's someplace where humanity had found a way to build a paradise, which means a walled garden. In other words, their sexuality could now reach a new level because they had what we call privacy. Privacy came with a garden that is a paradise. That's a walled garden.
Okay, but wait. Paradise, doesn't that also, para means close, and dice means Dios, close to God?
Well, I understand that, but that's not the same etymological root.
Okay.
So the story comes, I mean, all words actually are born from a story.
Yes.
And to understand that, because the intonation and the convolutions and the humor and there's also these other things that are built into the human voice that you can't put on a piece of paper. This is why, I mean, Jesus wrote one thing down in his entire life that we know about. And it was when they were about to stone a woman for adultery. And he said, wait a minute. He wrote, so he said, what he said out of his mouth was, let who is without sin throw the first stone. But he wrote something. Nobody has found anything that he ever wrote because he wrote it in the sand. So nobody knows what it was, but it achieved whatever purpose that he had. His devotion was to women. There's an interest. You got a minute? I got to tell you?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. There's an interesting thing that Jesus says in the Gospels, and it's I'll paraphrase it. It says, if you're going to begin to climb the tower, be sure that you're willing to pay the price. And then, once you begin to climb the tower, make absolutely sure that you finish what you started. Now, this is very deep and ponderous, but I think that the disciples were rolling on the floor when he said it, because it's pretty close to stand-up comedy when you know that Mary Magdalene, her last name is because she's from the town of Migdal. And Magdalena means tower. So can you imagine what a great comic routine? Jesus is standing there and talking about climbing the tower, and everybody's kind of elbowing, you know what he means, right? Because that's what his whole story was about. He was in love with a woman. And it goes very, very deep. But the reason why he did what he did was basically for his soulmate. And all these things that the Christian churches, I mean, I'm not knocking the Christian churches because they build a lot of beautiful cathedrals and they do good things and they do bad things, you know. But the story has been kept alive, and we have a new story because the feminine is coming into the story. I can't tell that story. I can't tell that story. But I love it. I worship it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Well, first of all, I got to sort of put my little 2 cents out there. I do believe that the family unit is what keeps society civilized and alive. And our family unit in the West is like definitely broken apart for a while now. So that aside.
Well, Cain killed Abel.
Yes, exactly. Now, back to this devotion to woman that Jesus is devoted to Mary Magdalene. Do you, I mean, this question, maybe this is not even important to you, but I want to ask, do you think that Jesus had offspring? That Jesus was a real man that actually created children?
I would say the question, I feel no. But I would say even if yes, which I'm kind of always open to, you know, if people want to argue forever, I'll argue. But I feel absolutely no, because it wouldn't be fit with the story. But even if he did, they wouldn't be his hereditary. See, the hereditary. In the end, he begins out as a child. Even before he comes out of the womb, he's a fetus. Is conceived as a fetus. So we know that there's this kind of an angelic Gabriel. Oh, there's the R and the L. There's and a G bringing them together. Gravity. So Gabriel bringing this 216. So it's the same thing. And
So it doesn't follow the storyline. You think that he would have children?
Well, what he's actually the descendant. The reason why he says what he says in reference to the state, he says when asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He says to them, "You said it, baby. You know, you that's your word." He doesn't say yes and he doesn't say no. He says, "You said it." Now, but you can understand why he would say that only if you know that he's a Kabbalist. And as a Kabbalist, he worships Hashem, which means the name. Like, in science, with all these words, the name is always the important part. So Hashem...
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but wasn't Jesus' original name Emmanuel?
Well, it translates into English as Jesus. I don't know, Emmanuel sounds to me like a title. Isn't Emmanuel? It doesn't... Yeshua, Jesus means Savior. And it comes from Yeshua and Joseph in the Old Testament, Joshua in the Old Testament.
Well, okay, hold on, because this is the stuff that people are going to get into and this is going to get juicy, right? So, in the biblical, I can't quote which chapter, but in the Bible, Jesus' birth name was Emmanuel.
Well, that's okay with me. I'm not arguing that point. I only am going to see. When I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm only looking at what I'm seeing. So you're seeing something else that I'm not seeing.
Okay, so they changed his name, I think, after the Magi visited him, and they changed his name or somewhere thereafter, to Jesus. And the way that I read Jesus in my studies of etymology, which have been heavily influenced by you, is in Hebrew, Y-E-S means sun or fire. And I-E-S in Greek, same word, right? So, because there was no J, the letter J was invented in the 15th century. So it was either Y-E-S or I-E-S, if you were Greek or Hebrew. And so that means sun or fire. And then Sus, S-U-S, is the same word for Zeus, the god Zeus, which is also the same word for Dios, which means deity or God. So like the way I read the word Jesus, it literally means sun God. You know, yes, Sus, or fire, God, sun God. Do you not read it that way?
My mantra for many years has been Ram, Ram, Ram. I've worn out many sets of wooden beads saying Ram, 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 Ram. And as far as Jesus goes, I speak with him every night.
Okay, so what do you think about that etymology of
it doesn't mean a thing to me.
Okay, because you have a different take on the title of Jesus.
I speak with him every night.
And what does he tell you?
We had fun. We talked.
Okay, so look, so
living in the spirit world, see, a mystic has a very fun time, and particularly dying. If you die like really like a hero, oh, it's so great up there, you know, because you get to talk to people all the time, and they always want to talk to you.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that. So, if you say that if you're able to, you know, you speak with Jesus every night, I have no qualms with that. I get that. I totally get that.
Well, I speak with Barbara every night.
Right, but see, Jesus to me means son, right? And the son represents universal light.
To me, it's a person.
Okay, but it's a person with a name that means universal light. And
okay,
if you're able to speak with that light, then that self-reflection is what makes you that self-reflection is what makes you a beautiful you know, mystic. So I'm definitely on the same page with you.
Oh, great.
And I think the name is not really the most
well, I'm not going
to
say anything's not, you know. I turn the page and it's another page. It's just, you know, all the pages work for the king anyhow.
That is correct. Okay, so let me read something to you, and I just want to get your initial reaction. You know who Terence McKenna is, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You know, he's a lot of people are like anti him because he was really
I think I don't know if I met him once. He does mushroom stuff or something like that.
Well, yeah, he's known for, you know, proponent of psychedelics.
Oh, he's the LSD guy, right? Okay, good, yeah.
But I mean, if you read his works and you listen to his speeches, they don't all revolve around entheogens. You know, he talks about a lot of other philosophical. He's a very, very, very.
Did you say atheism?
No.
What did you say? I didn't hear the word. Don't all revolve around
entheogens, meaning power plants, medicines that will, you know, affect your consciousness.
Spell that word for me.
Entheogen, ENTHEOGEN, which means like the God, to generate God, entheogen, to generate the theos.
Okay.
Entheos, right? Entheos, generation. So to generate God. So he is a proponent of power plants, right? But that's not where I'm going with him, because he wrote a lot of other things that had nothing to do with psychedelics or power plants. And he was also like he was a Gnostic Gnostic scholar, a Hermetic scholar, and a scholar of alchemy. He was also very well versed in like existential philosophers. So, but I'm going to read this quote of his because it's made a lot of impact on me. I want to see what you think of it, okay? Okay, so here goes, Terence McKenna. The real secret of magic is that the universe is made of words. And if you know the words the world is made of, you can make of it whatever you wish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's a quote. And what he's saying that what really dictates the human reality at the fundamental level is actually the power, not only just the power of language, but the creative articulation. The creativity of language that you use internally is what dictates the way you perceive the world externally. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He and she, you know, it's always that S is a feminine snake. She's a snake. Would you like to hear a song?
Say again?
Would you like to hear a song?
Yes, sure. Yes.
Okay, I'll play you a song.
Okay.
Let me put this sheet in here. I get the song on my stand there. Yeah, okay. And I'll turn the light up, and I'll get my guitar. Okay. Here's the song. There's a misunderstanding about how we'll find heaven. Have you heard people argue about their gods up above? Well, go tell your brothers and your sisters about it. There's a song from the rainbow made with nothing but love. sound of your chakra, that voice flowing through you, from her chalice of darkness to her crystal most clear, singing praise of the goddess, her name, Kundalini. When your voice reaches heaven, every goddess shall hear. But who wrote the music and where is our heaven? There's a voice that's within you as you sing your own song. Don't let troubles around you take away your compassion. Our cause is eternal. Just keep singing your song. It's the sound of your chakra, that voice flowing through you, from a chalice of darkness to a crystal most clear, singing praise of the goddess, her name, Kundalini. When your voice reaches heaven, every god shall hear.
Wow. I really like that. I really, really like it. I'm right there, man. I'm right there with you. I love the style of music as well. It's very, that's very Americana. It's very. Like,
thank you.
Yeah, and you actually like.
Well, I
it's
very folk music.
Yeah, I am too. I love certain folk music, and I love the lyrics. It's beautiful. I'm glad. I really appreciate you spontaneously sharing that with us, because I think it's just very authentic. So. And I mean, in song, right? Like all of our spiritual traditions that have survived over however long man's been on the planet have all been really preserved through song. And you can say that it's been preserved through writing, right? But writing is much newer technology than song. And when I was listening to that, and I don't know, this might be like just a strange segue, but it brought me back to something that happened to me last night.
Wow.
So speaking of song, let me just share this with you. Last night, a really good friend of mine, as a birthday gift, bought me what they call a float tank session, which is where you're in a sensory deprivation tank, so no light, and you're in a solution of salt water, so your body floats naturally.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay, great, cool. So I did this float session last night, and I knew I would enjoy it because I'm practiced in meditation, and I have no problem being in the dark, and I have some history of Lakota Native American ceremony where we're doing sweat lodges, and so I'm used to it being in the dark. No pun intended there. But
none taken.
So last night I'm in this float tank for like 90 minutes, and of course I'm practicing all kinds of things: prayer, meditation, silence, stillness. I'm working with it, trying to figure out what's going to put me into the best space for myself. And I did a lot of Native American song, so I know a few songs that are ceremonial. And I'm sitting in there, and I sang like 5 different songs to myself. And what was so profound for me was I'm floating weightlessly in the solution, and the water that's all around me is perfectly still because I'm not moving. It's like just a plane of stillness. And I noticed that every time I take in a breath and I sing a word or a phrase, that my body subtly moves, right? Like by breathing. It's just very subtle, like I'm breathing in and out, and I'm singing different songs. And I noticed that the songs that I sang, they all make different vibrations in the water around me. Okay, so I'm sitting in this very meditative state, and I'm becoming aware of how the energy of word and vibration and song is actually affecting the water that I'm in. And the water is vibrating out because of the way I'm breathing and the tones that I'm making. It's bouncing off the walls around me that I can't touch. And then that reverberation is coming back to the center or the source, which was me. And it was just such an amazing feeling because I could feel the vibration of those Lakota songs. And they were all different. They all had different tones and different vibrations. And some of them really they all made me feel good. But some of them put me into different, I can't explain it, but different mystical states. And I could tell that the words and the tones are magic. Like they are magic.
Yep.
And I felt that same thing while in Native American ceremony. But it was different because I was in normal Native American ceremony, I'm on the ground, like I'm grounded, literally on Mother Earth, Unchimaka.
Oh, I don't know what you mean by ceremony then.
Like an Inipi ceremony is a sweat lodge.
Oh,
okay.
A
Sundance ceremony. All there's seven sacred Lakota ceremonies, and they all have song involved. And so I felt the power of these words many times before, but this was like confirmation for me. I was like, wow, now I can actually feel that the real wave-like vibrations emanating from the tones into the water, and then coming back to me. It was brilliant. It was great. And which is what you just did. You just sang a beautiful song, and that's what you just did. You know, you articulated. So I just thought I would share that.
Yes, that was beautiful.
Well, okay. So one more quote for you. I want to read this other quote and just see if what you think of it, if you agree or disagree. This is from Carlos Castaneda, who's one of my big influences because I'm into the Toltec teachings and of the shamanism of the Americas. Carlos Castaneda talks a lot about syntax in internal dialogue and your mother tongue. And there's no coincidence as to why we refer to it as the mother tongue, right? Not the father tongue, the mother tongue. The tongue that dictates your syntax, according to him, dictates your reality. And so the quote is, whenever the internal dialogue stops, the world collapses, and extraordinary facets of ourselves surface, as though they had been kept heavily guarded by our words.
Will you just wait a second, and I will go to the beginning of that, what you just read. And when you come to the word world, W-O-R-L-D, read into the word world.
Yeah, world is word.
I'm asking you to start over reading what you just read until you get to the word world, and then stop.
Okay. Carlos Castaneda, the quote: "Whenever the internal dialogue stops, the world."
Okay, good. Now, whenever the internal dialogue stops, the world, if you know, or when we know, that the word, this English word that's spelled W-O-R-L-D, actually comes from two words. One of them is alt, which means old, and the other one is ver, as in werewolf, meaning wolf man. Ver, alt means old man. So that is the fundamental meme of the Piscean age that is passing, because the old man becomes the world. And then, see, there's a way to turn that around, because when a woman is pregnant, that child is not in the world. It only goes into the world when it comes out of her womb, because the old man is the one who supposedly pervades the world, who is the world, because it's his idea. And so, I'm getting to the end of my beads. I'm just doing 108 beads here. I'm about to be whirled around again.
Isn't it also, I think this is even in your book, I think I got this from your book, the word world is the word word with an L in there.
Yeah, certainly. It's all kind of, what I was seeing is right now we're coming to the end of the world with a capital W, because the capitalized world has been the facade for the old man. But the old man is only realized in a very spiritual sense, which has to do with soulmate. So I feel that I've transposed into this old man, because a guy asked me the other day, he said, how's your libido? I said, I don't have one. Because, you know, I was just arguing with a guy. He had put out a rainbow flag in front of this municipal building, and then they had to take the rainbow flag down because they said it was, you know, because it was homosexual in the office. They said, no, we can't do that on city property, blah, 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 blah. So I had a reasonable dialogue, and it came to my mind, because I'm an old hippie from way, way back. And when we had the rainbow flag, it was like for everybody. So I had to speak to these transgender and sexual people, whatever sex. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm out of the game. But whatever, they can't own the rainbow. And I don't believe in LGBT and Q and bi and all. I'd say, why not extend that to LGBT Q, which means questioning, straight, and finished. Why would you want to exclude everybody else, simply become a group? It doesn't, and then claim the flag to do it. You know, why not just everybody? Yep. Why do we need a black community and a white community when we can have a human community? It doesn't make it. Yeah. That's what Pisces has done. They're over. The fish is killing the fish, and we're in the age of chaos right now, which is obvious because the language absolutely is professing itself to mean nothing from the top down, which is really beautiful. And the prophecy that I wrote in the language crystal that contains, it says, the center of Jerusalem is the USA. So that's a rather large statement, but it means Jerusalem. It goes on and on into numbers and everything else. But what has happened since then is look at the Russians and the entanglement right now, because if you take the word Russia and spell it in English, put it down on a piece of paper, then take the even letters out of it, Russia. So the shadow of Russia is upon the USA, because you can see the letters 2, 4, and 6 are USA in RUSSIA. So that's an extension of that. I wrote that prophecy down in 1988, but I didn't get this new stuff. And there's a lot of new stuff coming to, into crystallization, as I call it. So, but it's all coming together, and it's written in the names, and what's happening in current events is all Kabbalistic.
Okay, so first thing I got to say about all of that is people that have not read your book, people that have not read the Language Crystal, they're going to probably be on the fence about some of this and be a little bit lost. I understand that. But as a person, I'll just say, I got to make this known. As a person who has read your book, I believe that you do have prophetical powers, because I've read your book and I understand the way that you have used language to, let's say, pierce the veil and like peer into the future by being able to assess the present so well. I mean, all I could say for people that are listening is, like, you need to read this book, right? You need to read The Language Crystal. It's a really, really, really powerful book.
The present is present. The past is past, which means the P-A-S-T has P-A-S-S-E-D. And then the present is present, which means that it comes from what is past. But there's a certain disintegration point. It has to do with time. Because the word future is only actually a Latin grammatical position. It's not like the words past and present and present. It has the greater abstraction to it. But actually, what we are is we're in the midst of time, and so what to move into the future is necessary to know there's a difference between the immediate future and the distant future. Now, we're already in the immediate future, because if you're in the immediate present, you're in the immediate future, because they're the same place.
Yep.
Spherically, as one proceeds from out the other, they both have the same center. And then, so the problem is that there is a distant future. So the distant future is something we can't know. But within the present future and the immediate future, it's knowable because it exists already.
Yes. The present is present, which actually transcends time. It's eternal.
The
present is eternal.
With essences and thresholds.
Yes. Okay, so You also, okay, let me kind of go back just a tiny bit. You mentioned the fish, the age of Pisces coming to an end, and the fish sort of chasing each other and trying to kill each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of a masculine motif.
Yeah,
However,
the father and the son, yeah, or the
Okay.
hungry and the not hungry, or the territorial and the aborigine.
Okay, but I'd like to say I am a Pisces, and my birthday was just last Sunday, and Pisces to me refers to duality, not to masculine and feminine. It's yin and yang.
I'm not talking about the personal. I'm talking about the highest abstraction within the story as I see it. See, I'm
Okay.
only proposing a story as I see it. I don't know anything about you. I have no idea what it doesn't matter to me.
So I'm gonna finish this. My highest abstraction that revolves around Pisces is what the word really means, right? Pi is the circle, pi, and Cs, which is spelled S-C-I-S, the root word for Cs is the same root word for science and the same root word for scission and the same root word for scissors. And so in Latin or Indo-European roots, SCI or Cs means to split or cut. So Pisces literally means to split the pie, right? The duality.
I got it.
to cut in half, right? And the reason why this is significant at this time is because the age of Pisces is the end of the zodiac. It's the final sign, right, of the cycle. And so when you split open the circle or the pie, that is how birth occurs, right? That's how the first cell has to divide to make two in order to replicate or to create many, one becoming many. And so Pisces is the end of a cycle, but it's also the beginning of a cycle because it's new birth. It splits the pie and thus replicates itself.
I got the picture. Thank you.
Okay, so that's my highest that I've been able to come up with. My highest abstraction of Pisces is that it literally means splitting of the pie, right? Pisces. Okay, so let me ask you now. I want to go back because you and I talked before this recording, and I was pretty fascinated by your take on the difference between, and you'll have to give us some subtext, like some context, the difference between chimpanzees and bonobos. And you're saying that mankind in general has the opportunity to sort of embody the cultural psyche of the bonobo.
I'm going to lower down the light. You're asking the absolute question that I was waiting to answer.
Okay, and let me also before, sorry to stop you, but before you answer that, I also know that this topic is fundamental in your new book. So you're working on, we haven't told anybody yet, but now I am, you're actually writing another mystical, prophetical book.
I am indeed.
And I want to make sure that listeners have access to that book when we
will be in contact, I'm sure, because you touched my heart, and I feel very close to your soul. And I'll just let all that go for now, and we'll wait to the future when it becomes more solidified.
Okay, that's cool. Maybe we'll promote it when it comes out. But yeah, go ahead. Talk to us about the difference between bonobos and chimpanzees.
Okay. There are 5 basic, what we call great apes, and they're the orangutan, the gorilla, the bonobo, the chimpanzee, and the human. But as far as chromosomes go, there's 23 in the human, and the other ones all have 24. Okay, so humans are actually somewhat distinct from all the other apes because we have 23 in our DNA code, and they have 24. So somehow we changed from the other ones by one little gene there. So what I noticed was that it used to be that we used to think the chimpanzee was our closest relative. And then very recently, within the last 20 years or so, I imagine, it came to be known that the bonobos, which used to be called pygmy chimpanzees or something like that, but now they're understood to be a distinct species, but they are equally distant from human beings by about 1.2% of our DNA. The difference is that they're a distinctive difference. It's not the same difference. But one of them is matriarchal. The bonobos are matriarchal, and the chimpanzees are patriarchal. Now, this gives us a perfect paradigm if we're looking to triangulate human nature. You say, because human beings are halfway between the bonobos and the chimps. One is matriarchal, one is patriarchal, which means they're inducing us to find balance between these two, because we're kind of half one and half the other. As far as the way I'm not going through the genetic code, I'm going around it. In other words, I'm looking at a morphogenic field that's surrounding it. I'm saying this is what humanity is now doing to try to solve the difference between a matriarchal culture and a patriarchal culture. So logically, how would we do this? Well, it's so elemental that it's obvious. It has to do with the distribution of food. Because if everybody has something to eat, if everybody has enough to eat, which we could do very easily, we're wasting so much energy on, nonsensical stuff, very masculine, crazy stuff. They're all. It has to do. If you watch the chimpanzees go into each other's territory, you will see that they confront each other in straight lines. They're very militaristic. Whereas you will never see the bonobos, the matriarchal ones. They don't go around in straight lines, and they also don't go to war with each other. So the matriarchals don't go to war, the patriarchals do, and the distinction, it has to do with where they come from, because in the South Sahara, the bonobos had all they wanted to eat. And where the chimpanzees were, they didn't have enough to eat. So the chimpanzee males, before eating, began to become abusive of the female. And this came into their culture and eventually got into their genes. I'm not trying to call them all some one distinct. It's different to name a lot of species that lead into becoming a species. But the idea of being territorial comes from the fact that you need new territory because you ain't got enough food where you are. Whereas the bonobos, they didn't care. They had everything to eat. And so when two bonobo groups would meet, the matriarchy, the girls would come out and play, and then the guys would come. So they don't get together. Two chimpanzee groups meet, and they begin to fight with each other. They clash with each other. They go to war. So when I walk the streets of Manhattan Island, and I walk upon the streets of Manhattan Island, I see various male characters coming in my direction, and it's pretty well to tell who's a bonobo and who's a chimp by the way they walk down the street. I use my peripheral vision much of the time because I see in a different way that way. You can see people's auras, and you can see the slightest movements that they make and their angles and all that. So watching the way men move, you can pretty well tell if a guy's walking toward you and he begins to circle and give you space, then he's a bonobo. If he comes more directly at you and wants to take your space, he's a chimp.
Okay, so, what about women? Can you detect the same type of thing in women?
Well, and not because it's the males who are territorial, and the territorial is what makes the food. And then you go to Cain and Abel, and one is a nomad, and the other is a farmer, and the story extends to Seth, who's the city maker, and goes to Solomon. And I mean, I'm looking at a very large paradigm. So I'm going back and say, well, why did Eve had to teach Adam, the knowledge of good? Why didn't he know? Well, because he was half chimp. He didn't know. I mean, part of him knew. The bonobo side said, yeah, I know how to get along with women. But the chimp side said, no, I don't know how to get there. I can't deal with these women. I got to beat them up. So this is the two components of men. And it's kind of a male thing.
Do you think that Eve actually knew, or do you think that it was just biologically in her nature to survive through hypergamy, to go, look, this is the right way?
Well, when you say her, this is because she is life. To understand, God is God, who we talk to and said pray to and everything. But the presence, the Shekinah, the essence of the feminine spirit is life itself. This is why Eve is life, because life is eternal, and the feminine is the union of all the material. Every male is born from a female. I'm not talking about humans in the way we do things anyhow. But you don't find any females that are born from males. It just doesn't work that way. So there is a mother nature that father time is divided. Because lifetime belongs to her. You may have the atomic time over there, where you can't even talk to it, it won't listen. But if you're talking to a lifetime, then you can have some influence.
Okay, but if life is going to perpetuate itself, doesn't it absolutely depend on the male energy as well? So if she is life, what is he? Isn't he life as well?
You know, he's a convenient extension of what he is. I mean, she had life before he ever existed. You know, an amoeba is a two-sister cells. They don't need a male to have life. You get two sister cells, and then she divides. She would always have the same DNA. But in order, she get bored. She was boring, so she got to make a tool to play with.
Okay. So if we go there and we go back to the reference of Pisces, if she originally divided herself, that goes back to the word splitting of the pie, Pisces.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so what you're saying, if I'm hearing this correctly, is that mankind, and that means women too, mankind, we all have a bit of chimp in us, and we all have a bit of bonobo in us, and it revolves. When I was listening to you, I kind of think it revolves around the idea of scarcity or abundance. Around.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're in the mind,
this is why the oligarchs and the people who are creating scarcity, when we actually have the roots of abundance, but
yes,
scarcity is being created by a financial sector.
Yes. Yep. I can go there. I think because I've been in both states, right? I've been in extreme states of scarcity, and my mental and emotional well-being in those states is terrible, right? It's just a rough.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's a.
But it was a good gestation place.
Yes, exactly. I learned so much by crawling and scraping my way out of that mental space and emotional space. And so, but they're both necessary, right? It's like the yin and yang, or the dialectic. It's like, how are you supposed to know what abundance is and appreciate it and actually, like, rest there peacefully if you don't know what it's like to be in scarcity, and vice versa?
What I find to be the blessing in all this is when I was in scarcity, I felt I was in abundance.
Yeah. Well, that's a very creative mind that can do that. So I believe you, because I know you have access to the...
I'm sitting in a living room right now where every piece of furniture, but maybe two, have been found in the street, and I like living in a museum.
Yes. Okay, so now, because we've been talking for about an hour and 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I think that we need to do this again, because I mean ultimately, like, basically everything that we've talked about, there's so many different levels of meaning that we can jump off to, and I think we need to have another conversation in the future. But
oh, beautiful.
But here, let me say, before we close up the conversation, and you don't have to go there if you don't want to, but I wanted to give listeners a little insight into what your next book is. Basically, if you can sum it up, what your next book is going to be about, and when do you think it will be complete?
Well, I hope to be finished. I'm condensing a lot of stuff. Like I'm writing about 10 books at once. So I'm actually condensing something that will address the very essence of the linguistic power. And I'm going to use the word power in reference to force, because you have a male force and a female force. They're the two forces, and when they combine, they become a power. And I'm speaking of a language that is balanced well between the male and female. I know how to do this because I'm not only an etymologist, I'm a linguist, and I know how to diagram a sentence. I study this stuff. So it's easy to, if you're not trying to sell advertisements and not trying to divide the nation into black people and white people so you can sell them one thing and sell them another, and then the men, what is it? I'm not talking commercial. That's one problem with the media. It's not the media, it's the commercial media. And that's what they speak in, is commercials. That's pretty much their language. And they have to accommodate the news and all that. That can't be commercial bashing. They can't fight the industries that feed them. That's the way they're constructed.
Yes.
So they have an impossible task to confront Donald Trump, because they're both pushing product. And product is a little bit, we got too much product out there as is, and we have to be able to limit the way advertising actually hypnotizes people.
Yes.
I would recommend it an extreme. It is an extreme sport. Do not allow sentences to be put on the air as commands. And I hear that done in various forms of telling people the in imperative modes. You know, we have a declarative and various different modes. But the imperative mode is very hypnotic because often if you tell people to do something often enough, they end up doing it.
Yes.
And the thing about the commercial media is that you can hear the same news for a little while, and new news, but what you're hearing consistently is this undertone of the same commercial over and over. And people do not realize how hypnotized they are by the commercial media, which is not the media, because each of us is a medium.
Okay, so
since we are each a medium, then when we get together, we are the media.
Okay.
They're not the media.
So
they're the commercial media.
So if you were to be a proponent of that statement that you just said, don't you think? And I'm being kind of, I'm kind of playing the advocate here. Don't you think that would be anti-freedom of speech to curtail the way that people speak?
Yeah, it wouldn't. Well, I think it's all negotiable. I mean, I don't expect. I'm only talking.
Right.
If you disagree with me, then go ahead. But if you think it might be interesting and of interest, now I don't know whether you use the word interest with a capital I or a small I. I'm going to use the small I in reference to small principles, which are actually the biggest principles, and the other kind of principle, which is the bank account principle, this kind of really fades off into the distance.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm with you. I think we both have a feeling for what we're talking about. Everything's negotiable.
Yes. But I agree with you. I'm totally on the same point. Like, I wish that commercialism wasn't so hypnotic and subversive and also facetious, right? And so, but it brings me to another point. I'm 100% behind. I back the freedom of speech. Our I think that's what's made the Western world a wonderful civilization, is our ability to think and speak freely.
I think that's a hype. I don't think people have freedom of speech. I don't feel that in the essence of public institutions that I visit. I don't feel that in churches. I'm not going against all these institutions evolutionarily because they open the doors to the same cathedral. Oh, by the way, I wanted to go back to the Third Temple.
Okay.
Because this goes way, way, way back. If you have a minute or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because we were talking about pi and dividing pi in two and all that, and so if you picture, because we remember the problem in Jerusalem today is the Third Temple, and what I'm saying, when we translate the entire story of Israel, which means the struggle with God, Israel.
Yeah.
If the answer to Israel is Jerusalem, which is Gedu Shalom, which is the possession of balance. In other words, the struggle with God, the answer to Israel is Jerusalem, which is the possession of balance.
Yep.
And
the Third Temple.
Oh yes, the Third Temple. This is the conversation. It's a thing called EMDR. Have you heard of it?
Only from you. You mentioned it to me before.
Oh, yeah, because it's a way of integrating the left and right sides of your brain.
Yeah.
And because the male, here's a big distinction between the male and the female that most people don't emphasize and maybe don't know, is that the actual biological male, which is the XY, when his temporal lobes reach near closure, they don't fully close. So what we call the corpus callosum, which is that union between the right lobes and the left lobe,
yeah.
The female of our species, the XX, which you can see the relationship, she's more symmetry. She's in XX, he's in XY. He's lacking the symmetry that she has. So her frontal lobes actually do connect. This is why women and men actually have different brains.
Right.
We have different brain structure. And if you look at the San Andreas fault and understand what a fault is, you understand he has a fault in his brain. But she's got a fault between her legs.
Yes, exactly.
So that's it. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
I don't know what
That's actually perfect because money comes from the word moon, which is female. So money where you're. Yeah. That's fantastic. So okay, one more thing. Back to real quick. Back to the way our speech is dictated in like say commercialism, right, or hypnotic. You in your book, one of the things that I highlighted in one of my other videos about what you brought to me, one of the things that really like blew my mind was I didn't realize my whole life that I had been indoctrinated into a language of technology as being priority over the language of biology. And you brilliantly put it in the language crystal that we need to come back into a language that's more balanced, and that balance is the language of biology, the language of life, needs to take priority over the language of technology for the simple reason that technology comes out of life and not the other way around. And so
let me give that my current spin. I haven't told you this yet,
okay.
But the universe has two aspects to it. One of them is substance, and the other is understanding. And you and I are sharing the universe now, and we're both made of substance. We both have understanding.
Yep.
Okay. So and you can look at any animal and say that is an understanding substance. Well, when you listen to the words understanding and substance, you realize they're the same word.
Yes.
Understanding, substance.
Yes.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about life. It's like the double helix. It's like weaving understanding through substance, and this is what life does.
Yes. Yeah, see, when you say that to me, I get it immediately. But the reason why I get it is because I've read your book. And
I didn't know that was in my book, really. It's that old?
Absolutely. It certainly is.
I thought it was new.
No, no, it's in there. It's in there. I've read, I don't know what page it's on because this book is like 510 pages. But yes, it is in there. So, all right. Well, I think for now, that's a great place for us to end up the conversation, unless there's anything else that you would like to add right now.
Thank you, Ryan McMahon. I really appreciate it. It's lovely. It's beautiful. I
agree. Well, thank you for being willing to share your insight with me and with anybody listening. I feel this is just such a perfect time for this type of information.
Oh, absolutely.
And I also do think that your work is ahead of its time. I think you're going to be one of these people that, people are going to finally catch on to what your message is, like maybe 100 years from now.
it's part of a movement. The movement is already here.
Yes. Yes, and it's been influential for me. It's woken me up in a lot of different ways. And I write books as well. So it's really affected my own thinking when I write and what words I'm using. And it's been a great experience for me spiritually to actually even be privy to the use and the power of speech and language. And so,
wow, yay.
So I really appreciate you writing this book. I really appreciate you being willing to talk about it. And I really want to get your next book as soon as it comes out. So we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yay. See you.
All right. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.